Have you ever reacted to something and shortly after thought, why did I just do that? Or why do I keep repeating the same mistakes? For years, I asked myself those very same questions. But the problem was, I was trying to change behaviors I didn't fully understand, trying to solve problems I couldn't clearly see, and address deeper issues I wasn't even aware of yet. Thankfully, over time, I came to appreciate a principle that's well known. You obviously can't change what you're unaware of or unwilling to accept. So, being aware, recognizing our unhealthy behavior patterns, and the skills to do something about it, now that's huge. And I believe the future of recovery has less to do with willpower and more to do with developing greater self awareness and emotional intelligence. So, if you can spare about 10 minutes, I'm going to explain why self awareness and emotional intelligence are crucial to long term recovery and lasting transformation. I'll also share how meditation and mindfulness were key in helping me to develop both. But if spending a few minutes to better understand yourself and potentially discover some powerful tools isn't worth your time, I'm sorry to see you go. For those of you who stick around, my name is Pao Dorje. I spent nearly 25 years trapped in addiction and all the destruction and chaos that comes along with it. But now, after more than 15 years in recovery, my perspective comes from both lived experience and years of professional work supporting individuals navigating substance use disorder and long term recovery. And if you find these conversations helpful, please give a thumbs up. Also, consider maybe subscribing or joining the discussion in the comments. Hey, look, your engagement really helps the algorithm reach more people who may be struggling and seeking a different perspective. Okay, so let's get into it. For most of my life, because of my addiction, I was told and eventually became to believe that I simply didn't have enough willpower. I actually believe I lacked discipline and the strength to change. And honestly, for a long time, I ignored many of the deeper issues underneath all of this because in the beginning, I was really just having fun. I was just out there experimenting and having fun. But eventually, the consequences caught up with me. I watched my friends graduate from college, build careers, buy homes, get married, start families, and have kids. Meanwhile, I remained stuck in the same destructive cycles, repeating the same behaviors, returning to the same environments, and struggling with many of the same unaddressed emotional challenges over and over again. My relationships suffered. My family was constantly disappointed in me. I struggled with consistency, instability, and emotional regulation. And after enough years of living like that, you begin to internalize it. You start believing the negative self talk. Maybe I really am weak. Maybe I really am broken. Maybe I really am incapable of change. But looking back now, I was trying to change behaviors without ever understanding the deeper emotional patterns, unconscious habits, and nervous system conditioning driving those behaviors in the first place. I didn't yet have the self awareness, emotional tools, or understanding of why I was the way I was. And because of that, I struggled to create the changes necessary to become the person I wanted to be. Let's start with self awareness. In its simplest form, self awareness is the ability to observe yourself, to notice your thoughts, emotions, reactions, habits, motivations, and behavioral patterns without immediately becoming consumed by them. It's the ability to step back and ask yourself what's happening inside me right now. Why am I reacting this way? What is driving this behavior? Listen, what if many destructive behaviors are not random at all? What if they're actually conditioned emotional reactions that can gradually be changed through greater self awareness and emotional intelligence? Because poor choices and destructive behaviors are usually responses to something deeper. They're often connected to emotional pain, stress, trauma, our environment, or simply trying to avoid discomfort. The problem is, most of us were never taught how to understand ourselves on a deeper level. We're rarely taught how to honestly examine what's causing our emotional pain and why we react the way we do, or what we're trying to avoid. Instead, we become so focused on changing the behavior itself that we never stop to understand what's driving it. Until we can clearly see those underlying thoughts, emotions, and behavioral patterns, it's really difficult to change because you can't change what you're unaware of or unwilling to accept. Now let's talk about emotional intelligence. If self-awareness is the ability to recognize what's happening inside us, emotional intelligence is what we do with that information. It's learning how to recognize what we're feeling and then responding in a more intentional and skillful way rather than simply reacting on autopilot. And for those of us in recovery, autopilot is exactly what got us into trouble in the first place. And hey, emotional intelligence is not weakness, and it's certainly not passive. Rather, it's the ability to understand our emotional experiences, regulate our reactions more effectively, communicate more skillfully, and recognize how our emotions influence our decisions, habits, relationships, and overall quality of life. And this part is also really important. Emotional intelligence isn't just about understanding ourselves, it involves becoming more aware of the emotions and experiences of other people so we can respond with greater empathy, compassion, and effectiveness. This is one of the reasons emotional intelligence can have such a profound impact on recovery, because it influences nearly every aspect of our lives. The way we think and make decisions, and how we communicate, build relationships, handle stress, and ultimately the quality of life we create for ourselves long after the destructive behaviors have stopped. And self-awareness is really the foundation of it all, right? Because before we can skillfully choose our responses to our emotions, improve our relationships, make healthier decisions, or change destructive patterns, we first have to become aware those patterns are happening in the first place. In other words, self-awareness helps us see patterns, while emotional intelligence helps us work with them more skillfully. And when you combine the two, you begin creating the conditions for meaningful and lasting change. Okay, now let's get into my favorite, meditation and mindfulness. Self-awareness and emotional intelligence happened for me pretty much accidentally. I was desperately searching for answers to my suffering through neuroscience, meditation, mindfulness, spirituality, and a deeper understanding of the causes and conditions of my suffering. Over time, through consistent daily meditation practice, I became a fairly skilled meditator. That practice gradually helped me become much more aware of my thoughts, emotional reactions, impulses, and all of my behavior patterns. It also taught me the value of staying in the present rather than constantly being pulled into regrets about the past or worries about the future. Eventually, that awareness started extending beyond formal meditation into everyday life. And that's where mindfulness really started changing things for me. I began noticing what triggered me, how quickly emotions influenced my decisions, how often I operated from fear or avoidance, how my environment affected my mental state, and how many destructive patterns had simply become automatic over the years. So, as I continued exploring emotional intelligence alongside mindfulness and meditation, I began realizing how deeply connected these concepts really are and how helpful they can be for those of us on a recovery and wellness journey. Meditation helps us slow down, observe our experience more clearly. Mindfulness strengthens our awareness. Self awareness becomes the foundation for emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence helps us make healthier decisions, build stronger relationships, and respond to life more skillfully. For me, all of this led to greater happiness, contentment, and a deeper sense of peace. For the first time in a really long time, I felt comfortable in my own skin. The more I studied recovery, the more I realized that lasting change isn't just about harmful behaviors. It's about understanding ourselves. Because if we don't understand what we're feeling, what we're reacting to, what we're avoiding, or what keeps pulling us back into the same destructive patterns, it's very difficult to intentionally create something different. For me, self awareness was the turning point because once I could see those patterns clearly, I could finally begin making different choices. And those choices eventually led to a different life, one of happiness and contentment, a life I no longer needed to escape from. And hey, before I let you go, if these conversations resonate with you, I'm excited to share that my new book, Middle Path Recovery Project, is now available for pre sale orders and will be officially released on July 14th. And as a thank you for your support, every pre-sale order also includes the Middle Path Recovery Wellness Plan. It's a structured self-assessment and planning tool designed to help you begin creating meaningful change right away. Just click the link to learn more and reserve your copy. And hey, seriously, if you need direct support or more information on any of this, please feel free to reach out. I'm here to help.